Welcome back to Sports Central. A few days back, some headlines were made through a new website called the PlayersTribune.com. Seattle Seahawks quarterback Russell Wilson wrote a rather eye-opening column, which he admitted in his younger days he was a bully, and it certainly contrasts with his goody two-shoes image. Kind of an interesting situation that we have here is it's a website that's called The Unfiltered Voice of Professional Athletes. To talk a little bit about that, we bring in social media expert Ken Wisnefski. Ken, how are you tonight?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Sure thing. So when you first heard that there was going to be this website that's called The Unfiltered Voices of Professional Athletes, what was your reaction?
Well, I think the biggest thing was that it was noticeably tied to Derek Jeter's name. So I think the timing of it was interesting, right? As he finished up his playing career, he got involved in this new venture. So my initial thoughts were that it would gain some notoriety just because of obviously the brand name that was involved in it. But then also I was more curious to find out a bit more about ultimately how the athletes were really going to have the availability to truly voice their opinions on a site like this.
Now, of course, we've seen the explosion of social media over the last few years. We know there are a lot of athletes on Twitter. How is this website going to be different than the access that people have to athletes on Twitter?
Well, I think Twitter really is much more geared toward shorter, quick responses. Obviously, that's the nature of Twitter. But ultimately, I think the Players Tribune is going to have much more of an opportunity to get a larger expose, if you will, similar to what Russell Wilson had provided, where they're providing more clear-cut thoughts and overall opinion on different topics. But again, I think it's going to be somewhat challenging to really be able to face off with the instantaneous scenarios that you see, that you get from Twitter, and then a lot of times, kind of the real hard truth that they come out with. So I think there's really going to be two different types of scenarios, both kind of having an opportunity to really survive, but being very different.
Obviously, this is a unique venture here as it gives athletes the opportunity to say what they want to say and sort of a little more longer form. But we've seen situations where an athlete will tweet something out, it will cause an uproar, and the tweet gets deleted. But, of course, nothing ever gets deleted from the Internet. Is there a downside to having that unfiltered voice?
Well, again, I think if you notice, here's a great scenario. Recently Adrian Peterson took to Twitter to have an opportunity to at least be able to try to defend himself from some of the obviously concerning allegations that are up against him, and he used Twitter as his platform to be able to do that. I don't see anytime soon the Players Tribune allowing Adrian Peterson to come on and offer his unfiltered opinion about what's kind of gone on and what's transpired, and allow him the opportunity to ultimately, in his eyes, defend himself. So I think what you're going to see on the Players Tribune is going to be a lot more calculated, reviewed, edited, and obviously polished up, and probably, the top line of it is going to be somewhat the controversial, if you could call it that, admission of, say, Russell Wilson, where Twitter is going to be much more of a kind of a volatile scenario, if you will, where a lot of times players will post things immediately after games and obviously are heated and somewhat in the heat of the moment, if you will. So I think there's going to be a very difference between what you read on Twitter and what you're going to see on the Players Tribune. Talking
with Ken Wisnefski, is the founder and CEO of WebMax, also a social media expert. Derek Jeter, it's a household name. It's a name that everybody knows. Obviously, he just retired. The fact that he's the one setting up this website, does his name and his reputation, will that help with as this website grows?
I think anytime you've got that type of brand name and the fact that he's so revered as he is, it provides a lot of credibility to the website. And again, I think he's been someone who's done a really good job maintaining a really strong image throughout his career. So in turn, I think this venture being supported by him is something that really will help the value of it and will provide a lot more notoriety about it.
A lot of what athletes say and a lot of what they do comes under a lot of scrutiny, and obviously that is increased as we've seen social media and now with this opportunity for this long-form communication from athletes. I mean, is this just the direction we're going in, that, every word, every sentence, just every little thing is just going to constantly be scrutinized?
I do think that there's just a lot more of an audience now that kind of looks at these type of scenarios. Celebrities utilize Twitter to be able to get their opinions, and somehow people feel connected to them because they can respond to their tweets, even though the reality of it is it's probably not even necessarily the real celebrity who's making a lot of these tweets. It's probably some sort of PR company that's doing it. But ultimately, I think you are going to see a lot more scrutiny around just kind of what's being said, because there's just a lot more being said. So people are always looking to catch that tweet that comes out real quickly and then is erased. People are always looking for those opportunities now. It seems to be kind of part of what social media has really begun to offer all of us in some way.
The new website, theplayerstribune.com, launched by Derek Jeter, called The Unfiltered Voices of Professional Athletes. Ken Wisnefski, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Really great information.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
The new column that's up on theplayerstribune.com is by Danica Patrick. And, I think now Russell Wilson is listed, I think, as one of the editors on the website. And I think that was a great way to launch the site, was a guy who's got a lot of popularity in Russell Wilson. And, I think to dive into his past and say some things that we didn't really expect, I think gave that website a lot of early credibility. So it'll be interesting to see as more and more content is put on that website, how much of a destination it's going to be on the internet.
It'll grow. It'll definitely grow. Jeter's got his name behind it. He won't let it fail. Love me some Derek Jeter.